from the day she started the shelter and we were sitting around a table praying for a loaf of bread, to now, couldn't imagine. My mom would smile so hard, tears would be coming out of her eyes. She loved the shelter. She'll be very, very happy. And it's just remarkable that it all started because she followed that little voice.
This place is about 50 years old. A woman named Bev Gargis started it after learning that an older alcoholic man had frozen to death under a bridge in Jackson.
And Bev said that just is unacceptable. She just wanted to have a warm place for men and women to be able to stay and get off of the street and out from under the bridges.
And then the shelter idea was born.
She had literally nothing, I think, to start this with, but she had a faith that this needed to be done, and it was the kind of thing that was pleasing to God.
Where it went from one person to a community effort, it seemed like the snowball started rolling down the hill.
When they originally started the shelter and they didn't know how they were going to do it, how they were going to afford it, and kind of taking that leap, and then the community coming around.
Jerry Walker, their own silver phone, she donated. I mean, and Steve Velnoff from the Baketeria.
And then, of course, she ran into Bob Zalkowski from Brothers Restaurant Supply, who donated all the materials to start a kitchen and to start a cafeteria-style area. And then Jim Cummings, I believe, from Cummings Plumbing, came in and did all the plumbing in the kitchen. And
a few years later, when they moved from the original shelter to the current shelter, and then that was a larger expense, and they, again, didn't know how they were going to do it, didn't know if they'd have the funding to do it, and the community came together and made it happen.
She bought this building, and when she signed the land contract, she had 77 cents. And a promise to God that if he let her open the shelter, she would do her part.
I've seen a significant amount of support, back in the early 90s. I could definitely tell that support has grown significantly.
The shelter continued to grow, and eventually that ran its course, and now the shelter has Steve Castle here.
The community's been amazing. We're here after 50 years because of this amazing community, and so I think, partly it's continuing that amazing partnership and that care for what we do.
This place has really grown. The administration that's currently present with, operating this particular foundation has done an enormous and a fabulous job.
Improving this environment in the many ways, the playground, the entranceway, the meeting room. And I think everyone who walks in here feels like, hey, this is a place where people care about the people that come here.
You think of a shelter as just a bed. No. A shelter is way more than that, especially here.
They treat you like family. And so, if you don't have one, you'll get to know what it's like to have one.
People lifting me up, people just wanting to help me, people just being kind to be kind.
I mean, you can see the physical changes that they've done around here, but I think more important than that, they're working on, systemic and sustainable programs and practices that will help people become self-sufficient, their pathway to success.
When the whole idea is for someone to get out of here, to stay out of here so that they don't need to come back to the shelter because they're homeless again, it's all of the things outside of the shelter that are happening that make that possible.
With these partnerships, we each get to look at what those gaps are. So some things are gonna overlap, right? But we work with those. If they overlap, how can we make that better? If they don't, then how can we fill that gap and meet the need?
Because it's not just about addressing immediate needs. It's about changing systems and setting people up for long-term success. And the shelter has proven that they're willing to do whatever it takes to support people within this campus, so to speak, but also to reach outside and work with other mission-aligned organizations to kind of build that safety net around people so that we can really carry them through this phase of life.
We couldn't do it without the community partnerships, and it's not just here's a meal, here's a roof over your head for tonight, good luck. It's us all coming together, surrounding that person that's going to actually allow for that actual life transformation.
You're depressed, you're down on yourself, you're angry, That's not motivation. You feel like a failure. And the shelter takes that away from you. And they build you up so you can go out. You can fill out forms, applications. You can talk to people. They help you do that. That's why the public should support the shelter.
They help me a lot, and if they help me, I'm sure they help plenty of other families. So I would just say keep it going. Just keep it going, best they can.
I really hope the community sincerely will keep supporting the shelter.
I couldn't have sat back and imagined just how big it would be, how it would be received, how it would last 50 years from a seed to an outlet for the community to pour their love into. And my hope is that it continues and it makes success stories of the people that it serves.
When you're down here just making it through life, sometimes you need a place to rest, to regroup, not only physically, but mentally, spiritually, and financially. And so wherever they are, you can kind of meet that need here.
We're all in agreement that everyone needs to have a sense of hope that they can make change. And that comes from having relationships with people who genuinely care.
If Christ was here, that's what he was doing. When he was on this earth, he was serving people that have felt they failed, showing them that, hey, you know, there's life beyond this. There's people out there that care. And by working here and talking with people and showing them that, hey, I care. We care. We got a whole staff, we got a whole administration that care about you coming up.
They don't have to take the initiative to understand where you're coming from, but they do.
The shelter gave me the foundation, the place, the walls, and the people that would lift me up.
We're all going to, face some type of barrier at some point, whether it's within our control or outside of our control.
Most of the time have exhausted family resources, they have exhausted financial resources, and they have nowhere else to go.
There are a lot of good people in here that things have happened to that just have nowhere to go.
So yeah, if you're already, going through a lot of struggles and, it's not just yourself that's going through this thing, it's going through homelessness, but you got a 5, a 3, a 2, and a 1-year-old that you're bringing alongside that's going through that struggle with you. It's hard to imagine how to even get out of it, you know what I mean? It's become more and more clear that we need a separate space for families.
Currently, if it's a mom and 2 kids, she shares a room with 3 other single women.
So if it's a single person in their 50s that's struggled with addictions their whole life, if it's people working a 3rd shift or a 2nd shift job next to a parent with 3 kids that needs to nap during the day and all those type of things.
It's challenging for families with kids because kids are up at all hours.
There's a lot of other people and everybody's under stress. So you're not dealing with just your stress, you're dealing with everybody's stress.
So it's better to have people that understand the situation of kids getting upset, kids yelling.
The hope is, that it helps them to feel loved and cared for in a whole different way.
Knowing that you can mold your children behind those walls to know that still outside, that's the outside world. This is our family, this is our home that we're building.
The importance of that is just the fact of having the stability and not needing to rely on other people.
The new shelter is going to have private rooms with their own door, and families will be in their own space. It really creates the space that they need to take those next steps, because to have that stability while they're going through this season and to have all those services that are really targeted for them, to have other people that are staying at the shelter that are all going through that same life phase.
If you bring families together and it's a family-oriented setting, then you know that your children are looking around seeing that it's family. This is what family does.
When you look at what the shelter has done in this 1 square block, and you look at how many community members have been helped, now we're going to have a family shelter where we have a whole nother slew of programming that we can provide for children's, young families.
If you want a healthy community, you have to lift up the lowest among us. And so I think this is a vital organ of our community if we want to have a healthy community life.
This is a meeting ground where those who have can reach those who do not have.
I think as we embark in this exciting new opportunity with the family shelter, I would love for people to really just consider what's the legacy that we're going to be leaving right now. I think that we're in one of those moments where we can look back, and when they're doing the celebration dinner for their 75th or their 100th, they could say, you know, the community came together and said, you know what, we're going to build something from scratch that is targeted to meet the need of families. So that's our opportunity.